the Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.
Welcome to Backstage Pass number 12. This is a show where I take you behind the scenes of the Instructor Podcast into the Instructor HQ, you might say. And we're no different today. We're looking at the Instructor Podcast and the Instructor Podcast Premium at what's coming up. But just before I dive into that, just a quick reminder to everyone that there is a couple of ways you can listen to these. Now, obviously, you've chosen one because you're listening so far. But just a reminder, you can get the link from Patreon and put it onto your Apple or Overcast, or I think you can do it on Google as well and listen through your Apple podcast thing of choice, or you can go through Patreon. And if you are listening on a podcast app, I do recommend that you check back in with Patreon now and again, so you can check up the written posts, the video posts, the polls, all that kind of stuff. And then just a reminder as well that you'll notice the tabs at the bottom of those posts. So, for example, this one will have a tab for Backstage Pass. So if you click on Backstage Pass, that'll take you to all the other Backstage Pass shows. But that's enough of the useful information. Now let's get on to the less useful information. I'm going to tell you a bit about what's coming up. So I'm going to talk to you first about the Instructor Podcast, because you may or may not have been aware that I've been debating what to do with the podcast for a little while. I felt like I'd achieved all my goals. I think I used the phrase that it wasn't fit for purpose, but that's more because the purpose has changed. I wasn't sure what the purpose was. I had a lot of inner dialogue, shall we say, going on that I needed to clarify. But I've now decided. And basically, I'm changing the format of the show a little bit. So, season 6 of the Instructor Podcast will return on the 29th of October, which is a little way off. I think it's about 103 days, something like that. So, quite a big gap to season 6. However, the reason I'm doing it for that day is because I like to finish on the last Sunday of the year. And starting on the 29th gives me 10 episodes. For season 6, which is what I'm going to be doing going forwards. It's going to be 10 episodes a season. So previously I've done 2 seasons a year, and they've been anywhere between 12 and I think the longest one was 21 episodes. But I'm switching that to 3 seasons a year at 10 episodes a time, which is going to significantly reduce my workload in the sense of the number of podcasts will reduce slightly. It'll give me a longer time between seasons. Sorry, give me more time between seasons rather than just that 1-2 breaks a year. I'll have 3 now. And it'll also make my life easier in the sense of, I've spoken about this on the show before, that the thing I find hardest is asking people to join me on the show. I always have the assumption that they're going to look at me like I'm some kind of buffoon, slap me in the face and say no. So far, that hasn't happened. I'm sure it will do at some point, but not yet. But by reducing those seasons, it means I've got less of the stress, but putting out probably better content because I'm going to have a bit more time and a bit less stress. So it will be going to 10 weeks a year. 10 weeks a season over 3 seasons a year. And that's kicking off on the 29th of October. There's also going to be a subtle change in that I'm aiming to record a bit of additional content with every guest to go out into the premium feed. So if you're a premium member, you tend to get the shows early. You usually get them, I've done quite well this season, we're getting them 4 or 5 days early quite regularly. And you get them ad-free, so there's no advert in the middle, basically. But there's also going to be an extra, 10 to 15 minutes of content, hopefully, with each guest where possible for the premium members. I will just mention, actually, that's something else I was considering, because I've had a few offers of sponsorship for the podcast, and I've never taken it up. I feel that to get sponsored, the show would lose a little bit of its identity, a little bit of its solo-ness, because I would, in effect, have someone to answer to. And I like being able to call people idiots and being able to criticize certain people and places. And I feel that, I wouldn't necessarily be able to do that if the show was sponsored. I've also considered the idea of adverts in the show, but I don't think I like that idea. It was pointed out to me recently that for me to start actually putting adverts on there would be a little bit like selling out, seeing as my whole thing has been promoting people and almost advertising individuals anyway. To then go and stick an advert in the middle is almost a little bit like selling out. And I agreed with that. And also, I did then think, well, just advertise my own stuff in the middle rather than advertising someone else's. Surely that's a better option. So that's kind of where the show's going. The other thing that I'm changing a little bit as well is I like doing things at the end of the show. So, for example, on season 1, we had the DITC come in and did like a little news segment. On season 2, I used to do the 6 random questions. I can't remember what I did on 3 and 4, but I know season 5 I started doing a little bonus segment with another interview with another instructor, and that fell by the wayside pretty quick because I couldn't keep up with that extra demand. So I'm looking at, maybe season 6, I'll start adding 10 minutes with Terry at the end and just share some of my thoughts and ideas on various things. So as you can see, lots of things in play there. The other thing that changing this structure will do for me is it will give me a bit more time. It will give me a bit more freedom so that I can do some of the other stuff I want to do, like the book that I'm writing, which I will give myself some public accountability right now. The target is to have that published by the end of September, which is quite a lot of work still to do, but, public accountability and all that. Stuff like presenting at the Intelligent Instructor Expo, stuff like taking the green room on tour, which we're planning to do once this year and a couple of times next year to do record that live at local associations, to do more things like the Instructor Meginar, which is coming up on the 3rd of August. And if you're not signed up for that, head over to the show notes or the website. You can sign up to a newsletter there, and that's where you'll get all the information details for that. Possibly even an instructor in-person live event, which I am currently talking about, and I've been talking about for a little while, but it's coming closer and closer to fruition. But restructuring will give me the chance to do more of that stuff as well. So that's kind of where I'm going with the Instructor Podcast, which is interesting because at one point I was ready to end it and say that's enough. So to go from saying that's enough to doing all that stuff is quite a change. But I'm reinvigorated and excited and ready to go again, and I'm very much looking forward to season 6. But I want to talk a little bit about Premium as well. Tell you some of the changes and some of the things that are coming up to Premium, because if you're in Premium, you'll hopefully have noticed that I released a schedule for July, what was being released on what dates. And I released the dates for the expert sessions a bit in advance and stuff like that. And it's been really difficult to do that. And I'll be sort of brutally honest as to why you haven't done that previously. So people do cancel and people do reschedule. I've never wanted to put stuff out there and then have to withdraw it because someone's cancelled. But as the premium content has grown, that's enabled me to have a little bit more time. And the way to think of this is if for every 4 people that sign up to the £10 tier, I can take an hour off a month, basically. So every 4 people that sign up, I can do 1 hour less on driving lessons and put that back into this content, and it gives me a bit more time. So as a result of that, 2 things have happened. One is that I'm able to get a little bit in front with the content, whereas previously it was like I would record an episode on Tuesday and put it out on Thursday. The episode going out this Thursday was recorded 2 weeks ago. The one going out next Thursday was recorded 2 weeks ago. So I'm in front a little bit, but the other thing it does, it's allowed me so that if someone does need to cancel or reschedule, I've got more time to fit them back in. So, thank you all for signing up first and foremost, because by doing that, it's allowed me a bit more time to put into this to make it better for you as well. So I will be releasing August's schedule, the end of July, early August of what's coming up there. And August is going to be a busy old month. In fact, I'll tell you what I've got planned now. We've got the Confident Drivers, not the Confident Drivers. 10 Minutes to Confidence is coming up. We've got the Audience Growth podcast with Robin Bates. Got ADI Mindfulness with Sam Harper, Being Better with Bob Morton, and then we've got another standards checklist. So we've got 5 premium pieces of content there on the 5 Thursdays in In August, we've also got an alternative routes coming out. We've got what do you call it? We've got the Meginar on the 3rd of August, as I mentioned, which isn't a premium thing, but it's available for premium people to jump in on. And we have got Neil Wightman's safeguarding expert session on the 17th of August. So you can see there we've already got stuff planned there, and it's going to be quite hectic. In a good way, hectic. In fact, while I'm speaking about this, and I will put these in the show notes as well, but the dates for the upcoming expert sessions are as follows. On the 17th of August, Neil Wightman is doing an expert session on safeguarding. On the 14th of September, Ray Seagrave, providing he's now fit and healthy because we had to move him from July due to a hospital appointment. And I'm getting quite annoyed with people having to cancel my podcast for health reasons and because they get jobs and stuff. I don't understand why I'm not prioritising my podcast. Either way, 14th of September, Ray Seagrave is doing a rapport. Oh, not doing rapport, talking about rapport. I can't read my own writing. I'm pretty sure this is 17th, but I will update it in the show notes. 17th of October, Phil Cowley is coming on to talk about questioning techniques. And then a new one that I hadn't previously mentioned on the 13th of December, got a bonus one for you. Nick Smith is going to come along and talk to us about creating our own website. He's going to do a bit of a walkthrough on creating your own website and offering some tips around there, which is quite cool. We've also got Chris Brooker, who has offered to come and do an expert session on talking with confidence and building confidence up in things like public speaking and that side of it, which I'm really interested to get on. But I'm not sure when I can get him in yet. It'll either be November or January. And B, whether there'd be an interest in the group. So I'll probably put a poll up at some point. But if there'd be enough people wanting to come along to that, then I'll get him in to do that. But they're the expert sessions that I've got coming up as well. And again, I'll update this more in show notes and written posts as we go along. The other thing I want to mention is some new shows that we've got coming up. So there's 3 new shows that will be starting hopefully before the end of the year. One is starting in July, and that is Social Instructors with Laura Joyce. Now, Laura has worked with various driving schools to help them grow their brand on social media and help them, go viral and grow, and you get the idea. She's going to come in and give us specific tips around social media and how we can use it. And the first one is coming out on next Thursday. And that's a bit of an overview, but basically she's telling us why we do have to dance on TikTok, which was a fascinating episode that went on a lot longer than I thought and took some very unexpected twists and turns. So definitely check that one out. But yeah, delighted to have Laura join us for Social Instructors. And then the other 2, there's one coming up on the National Standards for Driver and Rider Trainers. Again, these are series of podcasts or shows or trainings, whatever you want to call them. National Standards for Driver and Rider Trainers. And then I think the one I'm looking forward to the most is a suggestion from Les Hopkinson. I think it was Les, about the GDE matrix. It suggested I do something around that, similar to the standard checklist. And the reason I'm excited by this one is because I get to call it Enter the Matrix, and I get to use graphics from the Matrix. And that's the only reason I'm excited. But very much looking forward to these. Now, again, taking you behind the scenes a little bit, it's awkward introducing new shows. So, for example, my commitment is to put out 3 shows a month to you guys. That's my minimum commitment. As you're aware, it's usually more like 4 or 5, or, look at what I've just said is coming up in August, but a minimum of 3 shows a month. So if I introduce these 3 new shows in August, it's a bit like, well, which shows am I dropping for it? So, because I'm not in a position yet where I can do 10 shows a month. Now, maybe ending here will be, you never know, but it's going to be a mix and match. So it might be standards checklist in August and National Driver and Rider Standards in what comes after August? September, and then October, and vice versa. It might be I swap Bob out with Enter the Matrix one month, and we swap around like that, and we can get in a bit of a rhythm of it in that sense. But that's why, just in case you're wondering why stuff isn't just done and thrown out there, because it has to be balanced with the other content. Otherwise, I won't be able to manage it all. The other thing I want to shout about just a little bit is, and I can't go into this too much, but got something very exciting planned for next year, and I am planning as far ahead as next year. It's looking like it'll be April next year, and it's going to be based around the standards check, and it's going to be based around the competencies, and it's essentially going to be a period of time, probably a month, themed around a certain competency, and doing things around that. So whether that's workbooks, or whether that's lives, or whether that's going back over the standard checklist, or getting new people in to talk about certain stuff. That's going to be kicking off probably April next year. And I'm quite excited about that. So yes, you might want to stick around till April for that. That's going to be good. The other one I want to mention briefly about what's coming up is on the 21st September. And again, I will put more details about this in Patreon itself. But on the 21st September, Neil Wightman is running a safeguarding course specifically for premium members. And I think it's a maximum of 10 people. Again, I'll be posting the details up. There will be a discount for premium members. So if we don't sell out to the premium members, if you guys, not everyone wants to join, then I'll open it up publicly. But as a premium member, you get a discount. So he's doing the expert session in August, and then the safeguarding course, online training course in September. And we've done it that way intentionally. So you get like a little introduction in August, and you get the proper course in September. So maybe you come along in August and get everything you need from that session, or maybe that's a taste you need to go and dive in a bit further. But that will be in August and September. So as you can see there, loads of stuff planned, loads of stuff coming up. And as I mentioned, some of those changes that we're committing to Thursdays for shows, hoping to get that done. I'm hoping to get something done every Thursday, but as I said, it's a minimum of 3. The other thing I just want to mention around that as well is what I refer to as the bonus shows. Now, these might be just impromptu shows that get done, or there may be things like this, like the Backstage Pass or the Green Room Extra, which aren't necessarily shows you're going to walk away from going, oh, wow, I've learned so much there. That's revolutionized my business. But they're just useful, whether it's find out more about what's coming up, or it's the Green Room Extra, which is often a bit of light-hearted entertainment, so they're extra shows. They're not going to come out on a Thursday. They're just a bit of bonus, if you like, in the same way, the impromptu show. So I think it was last week we had a Q&A with Adil Amazi, who offered to come in and do one around copywriting, and lovely show. Really enjoyed that one, and that was just a bonus that put out that week. So as well as the regular shows, you also get these bonus shows as well. So that's basically where we are. We've got all that awesome stuff coming up for premium. We've got the slight change in premium that I've mentioned. Also, I will mention this because it changed a few weeks ago, but I haven't mentioned it on here yet. So the problem solver sessions, they used to be on the same day. So it would be like a Sunday, I'd have one in the morning, one in the evening. I swapped them around as well, so that they're now on different days. And I did that for 2 reasons. I had a few people request that I do it, because they often find if it was a day they weren't available rather than a time. So by switching it, so it might be a Tuesday morning one week, then a Tuesday evening the next week, by switching like that, it gives them more opportunity to come along. But I've also found that that's working better for me, because that way I'm not losing a full day. I lose 3 hours on a Tuesday morning, but I've got the rest of the day, rather than lose a full day. And by lose, I don't mean in a negative sense, because I enjoy doing them. I mean in the sense of when I've got them both on the same day, I struggle to do anything else. But just having one helps me massively. So it's learning together, and it's being more productive. So I hope that you have found this useful and interesting. As always, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Oh, I am now going to ask if either of the premium members that have dropped along today want to ask me to clarify anything, or I've got any questions around anything we've spoke about.
I was going to be cheeky and ask what the book's called.
I will tell you what the book's called. Now I'll tell you my favourite chapter so far. The working title for the book is not official yet, but the working title is Not a Standards Checkbook. Not a Standards Checkbook. And the first paragraph currently says, if you want to read about the standards check, this is not the book for you. There are several really good books about the standards check. These are them. And then I proceed to tell people what other books I can read rather than mine. And I thought you probably couldn't find a better way to start my book than by telling people not to read it and go and read a different one. There is a chapter on the standards check, but it's not very long. And so far, my favourite title is simply How to Handle Dicks. And that's what we're going with. Anything else you want to ask me about, Phil?
I look forward to putting it on the book club.
And thought about that. Now I'm nervous.
I was just intrigued on the green room tour, going to local associations. How's that going to work?
I can't announce it yet because we've not officially confirmed it. But I am been in talks. It makes us like some kind of famous pop star or something, but I don't know how to describe it. I've been in talks with someone that wanted me to go and record live for them, and they've kind of combined a few local associations together to get a bit of an audience, and me and Chris are going to go down there. Hopefully in September is when we're planning to do it. And we're just literally going to go down there and record in front of the audience. So at the minute we do it on Zoom in front of you guys, but we're going to go do it in front of an audience. And again, I'm hoping to do that a few times a year. When I change the seasons next year, that's going to give me more time, because at the minute I just get like a 2-month block between each season where I might get a little bit less time now, more like 6-7 weeks, but that'll be more frequent. So that's basically all it is. So I think we're going to test the water and see how it goes this time. And, I'm sure it'll go well. And if and when it does, we'll look to carry on a bit in 2024.
I'm intrigued. I'm treasurer at our local association, so feel free to come along.
I will.
A lot of our members are actually premium members as well, so you've got some fans down in our area.
Well, as long as you've got an audience of more than 4 people and I'm provided with a bag of crisps, then I will happily come along. And I'm sure Chris is the same. One other thing on the green room, actually, we're tweaking that a little bit. I say I'm tweaking it and just telling Chris or whoever stands in for him on the odd occasion, in that I'm doing it a little bit earlier, recording it a little bit earlier. I used to try and leave it as close to the end of the month as possible, because it always goes out on the last day of the month. But I'm trying to do that a little bit earlier now. So 5 or 6 days before the end of the month. And so again, you guys get it early. It gives me a little bit more time to get it edited rather than recording it and finishing 9 o'clock at night and editing it that night, which is quite stressful. So there's a slight change in day, but also members of the DITC are going to get it early. So whereas you guys get it early as premium members, because Chris is quite obviously a guest on the show quite regular, the DITC members will get a link to listen to it early as well. So subtle changes around the green room. Paul, anything from you? Any questions or anything? No.
No, I think you're right about the advertising. If you're going to advertise anything, then advertise your own stuff. Yeah, and the sponsor bit. Yeah, I'd be looking forward to reading the book. I've been looking at the videos on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I think most of the videos on YouTube they are available on the premium content anyway. I think the biggest reason I'm doing it on YouTube is the search engine. People search for stuff on YouTube. So if I put the Instructor Podcast on there, the hope is that people find it and go, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll go and click subscribe on Apple or Spotify or whatever." That's kind of the goal there. But again, that goal might change as I get a bit more time and a bit more organized. And I might start doing more over there. But previously, video content has always been, I won't say exclusive, but largely exclusive to premium. But I am starting to put like teasers over there, 5 and 10 minute teasers for the premium content, and I'm going to put clips for stuff over there. I think I might put the 6 for 60 video up on there, because I think that'll be really good promotion for you guys as well. Phil, you were on that, and the other 5 that are on there. I think it'll be good promotion for you rather than worrying about the podcast. I think that would work well for you guys, for people to see that as well. So yeah, lots of stuff around there. And again, I'm going to take an opportunity to mention the Meginar as well, because I've spoken about that a couple of times. But the Meginar, the 3rd of August, the announced people so far: Bob Morton, coming on to talk about coaching. Engage, coming on to talk about drug driving and how we as instructors can have a better and more profound impact on learners. Stuart Lockery talking about why we shouldn't listen to the DVSA. Elizabeth Box is talking about pre-driver education. Chris Spencer is doing the theory. Laura Joyce is talking about social media. And Kit are talking about, well, they're taking us back to the future, essentially. And I'm actually changing the way that I do this. I'm thinking about changing the way that I was going to initially do the Meginar. So the Meginar was initially going to be just a webinar, and you had to sign up for the webinar and go along and watch it. I'm changing it. I think I'm going to change it, and I'm going to make it essentially a Facebook Live in a private group that's only going to be open for a week. So the webinar, the Meginar will be broadcast live into that Facebook group. So you need to join that group when it gets set up. It'll be live into that group at 6 p.m. It'll stay in that group for a week. And the reason I'm doing it that way is because then we've got the chat active properly. So, for example, Elizabeth Bots will come on, deliver a presentation, then come off and go into the chat. And then for the rest of the week, I could have those same guys, doing a post saying, this is where you can find us. If you want to find out more, come here, maybe even doing posts about the stuff they've done. So it makes it a bit more an event round. Just here's the webinar, done, dusted, over with, putting it actually into that Facebook group. So yeah, that's not confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure that's the way I'm going to do it. So yeah, lots of fun stuff there. So yeah, thank you guys for coming along. It's been a pleasure to see you, and thank you guys for listening. Always a joy to do shows for you. And remember, if you're not enjoying your lessons, you're doing them wrong.
The Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.